Welcome, everyone. My name is Michele Iono. Advancing Athletics is proud to partner with the Ohio Tactical Officers Association to present our performance and wellness platform for tactical athletes, Fuel, Move, Recover. We had hoped to introduce you to FMR at this year's conference, and given the circumstances, we are grateful to have this opportunity to present this information to you via webinar, and are very much so excited to speak to you and meet you next year at the conference in 2021. So as we get started here, I want you to be aware that this webinar will center on the recovery portion of our FMR platform. We are clinical experts in human performance wellness, and we offer free seminars for first responders like you and coaching for individuals through advancingathletics.com. If you stay tuned until the end of the presentation, we will have a special promotion that we are giving exclusively for OTOA members. First, a little bit about myself. I am the recovery lead for Advancing Athletics and also am the co-owner. So my training is in physical therapy, and I also have experience from academia doing biomechanics research, performance research, motor control, motor development, as well as the strength conditioning side, performance coaching. So I work not only for Advancing Athletics, but also Promotion Therapy Services out of Millersburg, Ohio. And if there is any way that I can help those of you in the local area, we are more than happy to receive those inquiries. Before we get started, it is important for you to know that we believe elite level guidance for performance and wellness should be affordable and accessible to those of you who protect and serve. Most importantly, your membership to our platform, Fuel, Move, Recover, will help your brothers and sisters who are performing this job at the local level and who may not have access to these full-scale wellness and performance programs. So if you decide to help us reach out and educate these folks for free through your membership, then we will give you high quality content and access to us. You'll be able to ask questions, participate in our podcast, and get discounts on the products that we have available to you. Stay tuned until the end of this presentation for a special promotion code that I will give you if you sign up through this presentation. So, what is recovery? Well, recovery is all about stress. Life stress can be good or bad, physical or mental, and most often is a combination of those. It's important that we reverse the bad reputation that stress has, because when people hear that word, they automatically associate it as being a bad thing. Rather, I heard Dr. Kate Colvin, who is a psychologist and mental performance coach for NATO Special Forces, put it really simply in saying that stress is anything that takes energy away from you. So thinking about that, it makes it a neutral word, no longer a buzzword, which it has become, and also keeps it in the right frame of mind in that it's just something to account with or account for. Here is a graph that we will be revisiting multiple times, so please allow me to orient you to it first. On the vertical axis, we have performance and wellness, and on the horizontal axis, we have time. At the dotted line, you see that we have a life stress event. Again, that can be anything that takes energy. So a workout or a challenging shift or a busy celebratory weekend or building a deck or negative things like a fight or a tragedy or any of those kinds of activities. So what happens after the dotted line or between the dotted lines is the recovery period. We're going to talk more about that in a second, but essentially it is the time that you overcome what happened during that life stress event and then the way that you prepare yourself for the next one. So this is another way of looking at recovery. And the way that we think about recovery is really optimizing three different avenues of life. You have active recovery, passive recovery, and your mental skills. Your active recovery is things like foam rolling or meditating after a really stressful day. Passive recovery is primarily your sleep and nutrition. So by taking care of your body, of course, at times, the way you fuel, like having your protein shake within that 2-hour window after your workout, that is a more active approach to how you fuel. But in general, the way that you fuel affects the way that your body functions. And then that has a diffuse or has a positive or negative effect on how your body deals with stress. So we put that into the passive recovery category. And then decision triage, which we'll get to more in a minute. The third avenue is mental skills. And this really encompasses the way that you deal with stress mentally and the way that you approach the things that happen in your life. And not only from a reactive standpoint, but also a proactive standpoint. So by optimizing these three avenues, or the way that you progress through these three avenues, allows you to thrive. So we don't want you to just survive your job. A lot of you have trouble staying in the field because of how stressful your job is, but it is possible to thrive and also protect and serve your communities. That is what we aim to help you all with. So let's talk about active recovery first. Active recovery is best visualized with our optimal stress management graph. So notice how diagonal the first line is and relatively how vertical the second line is. That is representative of how you are actively recovering, how you are actively addressing the stress that comes with your job or your life events that take some energy away from you. One example of this is like foam rolling or stretching. Let's say that you have a challenging workout and you make sure that you address those sore muscles by performing some cool down routine, or maybe working on some of that tension in those muscles by doing some foam rolling. You can even do these things after work or after a challenging call, which again, all we're doing is we are mitigating the effects of that stress on your body. Another active recovery technique is meditation. Here, we are taking the mental stress that comes along with being switched on all the time, as you guys have to be in your professions, and teaching you how to bring down your state of arousal so that you aren't just on red alert all the time when you don't have to be when you're at home, which allows you to have more fulfilling and richer interactions with people when you're off shift, as well as allowing you to deal with the stress from your day or your activities or whatnot, so that then you can sleep better and actually get more of that recovery. A third approach is one that I had mentioned earlier, in well-timed fuel. So while we do view your nutrition and the way that you nourish yourself as being more of a passive recovery technique because it just kind of affects everything all the time, there are moments where well-timed fuel can have a very direct and specific impact. The most common example is getting in your nutrition right after your workout. So if you don't eat within a specific time period, what ends up happening is that your body has to find a different way to process the stress that you go through with your workout. So rather than allowing your body to simply be in survival mode after your workout, by you making active choices with what you eat and when you eat it, that will keep control in your hands, so to speak, and make sure that you optimize the benefits of that workout itself. Finally, a useful active recovery technique is spending quality social time with your friends and family. We all go through challenging things with our jobs, but you guys in particular. So what happens is that you get used to all this stress and all this risk tolerance and all of the negative feelings. It's like for a physical therapist, you only go to see a physical therapist when you're injured. So we start to have this skewed perspective on what interactions are with people. So it's important that even people in my line of work spend time, quality time with friends and family in order to give yourself a positive reinforcement of interactions, of human interactions, which has a profound effect on your mental well-being. Let's just quickly talk about two other very specific examples. So you have that difficult workout and you know that like stretching is a good thing. And now that you have access to us, you should be able to very precisely, accurately cool down with a very personalized routine. However, you may not have that yet. So what we would recommend is to foam roll instead of just doing random stretches, because even though some stretching can be beneficial, you're still putting stress on joints and muscles trying to improve the stiffness or tension that you feel after that workout. Whereas foam rolling, of course, you do have this like fight or flight response whenever you first start foam rolling because it's so sore, it's so tender. So your heart rate gets elevated, you might start sweating a little bit, things like that. But as you become accustomed to it, it usually takes about 2 weeks of daily use for your body to become more accustomed to the sensation of rolling. What ends up happening is that you are relieving stress instead of just adding more stress, which is what undirected or non-specific stretching would do. The other useful technique is what I want to call positive downregulation. So remember how I talked about you guys have to be switched on all the time? Well, when you come home from your stressful day and you might have had a bad interaction with a colleague or a civilian, what you can do is sit and be quiet, focus on your breathing. The whole point of this stuff is to reconnect your brain to your body. So when you're just reacting at work or trying to control situations that are unexpected, you are not able to ensure that your physiological response is accurate and also is calmed down after it gets elevated. So by doing these kind of meditative, mindful approaches, what it allows you to do is start to regain control of your physiology so that you're not just kind of ramped on all the time. Next, let's talk about passive recovery. Back to our graph, passive recovery is how much time you spend at the bottom before starting to hedge your way up towards that recovery. So essentially that's not how much energy that is taken from your body, that's how far down the line goes, but instead how hard that life stress event hits you. So look at the shape of that curve. how the line exits the rectangle that I drew on there right at or below halfway up the side. Whereas on this one, look how it's shaped more like a V, whereas the other one is shaped more like a U. And now all of a sudden, that one was not nearly as troublesome in this representation. And now you're able to get more recovery more quickly. The first and most important approach to passive recovery is sleep. Nothing is more important for your well-being, your mental sharpness, your recovery than the amount and quality of rest that you get. Even if you feel like you get good sleep, but are getting like less than 4 or 5 hours of sleep, there's pretty compelling research that shows that that is pretty similar to being drunk. And it only takes like a week of consistent loss for that to really take hold. And all of you know in law enforcement in the tactical realm how important your reaction time is. Also, your ability to think on your feet. How many times have you guys been in difficult situations where you were able to get out of it and de-escalate or succeed in the negotiation of the situation by thinking on your feet? All that gets impaired when you don't sleep well. That's not even to say all the physical effects about how growth is so important. Like for kids, growth is so important. Recovery is so important. Even the hydration of the discs in your back increases or improves when you're sleeping. So if you don't get enough sleep, your discs are going to be more stiff, and just something like that can increase your risk of injury. Next, let's talk about journaling. So journaling, or as the scientists say, disclosure, the benefit of it is it allows you to take what you went through during the day, especially when you have traumatic experiences, difficult experiences, and it helps you process what you felt and what you experienced so that you can move on from it, learning to deal with it better. So you can't undo the experiences that you have, but you can manage and improve how they affect you. So what a lot of us do is we want to just hold it in and be tough or just try to ignore it. And we know that it starts to eat away at us. We're all built with the same stuff. And going through these really challenging experiences will absolutely start to take a toll on you. So even as something like this, which might be otherwise viewed as being like quote unquote touchy-feely, can be really beneficial because it helps you process your feelings and your thoughts from these experiences, no matter if they were positive or negative. The next thing is to walk or even run. So the point about walking is that it gives you the opportunity to have a small stress relief while getting out into nature. Usually it's nature. Sometimes a part of it is being present and mindful and just taking in your surroundings and disconnecting from the challenges of the day. It gives you all that, remember that ramped on energy that we talked about being switched on? It gives you something to do with that. So exercise, physical activity has been very consistently shown to benefit us in that way. The other thing is that there's a lot of evidence that something as simple as going for a run can help people manage their anxiety. It's actually an incredibly powerful treatment tool. So the thing that we want you guys to start avoiding, or to make sure that you continue avoiding, is the habit of self-medicating with self-destructive behaviors, whether that's drinking or nicotine or fighting or all these other kind of things. And it's not because you're bad people, but because you have all this energy pent up from what you chose to do for a living, and you are getting sacrificed when you shouldn't or when you don't have to be. So these are two ways that you can help yourself to deal with the challenges of your routine. Decision triage is the expression that we're using to impress upon you the importance of understanding how stressed out you are. Remember what I mentioned about foam rolling versus stretching? Remember, stress is stress. Anything that keeps you down in those troughs that are boxed in on the graph are going to impede your ability to get back to your baseline, or God forbid, actually get beyond your baseline and actually start to thrive. The final point I really want to ram home about passive recovery is fuel before stress. The importance of nutrition cannot be understated. And so if you have a choice between getting a healthy meal in or preparing yourself for the rest of the week, like meal prep, that will have a bigger positive than exercise will, especially like one day. Like, let's say you do all your meal prep on Monday after your shift and you get off late from work. Well, normally when you don't get off late, you have enough time to do your workout and also do all your meal prep for the rest of the week. Well, today you had to work late, or your kids had a recital, or whatever the reason is. And then you're like, okay, well, what do? Do I delay meal prep, or do I go get my workout in? My recommendation is to go and do your meal prep, because that having good nutrition the rest of the week will have more positive, will do more good than that one single workout will. And then it has the potential, of course, to throw you off your whole routine. And that gets into the whole mental side as well. So just really quickly, let's talk about two specific examples. Let's go back to that difficult workout that you had and you're really proud of yourself. Sometimes I do this as well when my friend Abby and we do our mile repeat runs down at the park. They're really challenging. So it's nice to come home and have a beer. A lot of us do that. It's okay as long as you have a healthy relationship with beer and it fits into your meal plan and your nutritional goals. The point is that drinking alcohol makes you sleepy. The problem is that sleepiness does not result in more quality sleep, because excessive alcohol impedes your ability to get that deep REM sleep that is really the important part. And then the other example is, again, you have that extra long, stressful day at work. Skip the workout and instead just go for a walk. So instead of going for a run, like we said earlier, walk or run. So you think, well, obviously I'm going to burn more calories. It's going to be harder. That'll be better. Not necessarily. Live to thrive another day. So instead of going on that run, instead, just go for a walk. Again, process all the stress that you just got done dealing with, and then you can always come back to it later. The final avenue of successful recovery and the pathway to thriving is your mental skills. Going back to our optimal stress management graph, you can think of your mental skills as the thing that determines how erratic the curve of your line is. So your mental skills really impact your ability to manage the unsuspecting things that occur in your life. I want to give another shout out to Dr. Kate Colvin. You can find her on Instagram at The Tactical Psych. She is fantastic, and I want to give her credit for introducing me to this categorization. So mental skills, what I'm calling mental skills, can be divided into three different things: resilience, post-traumatic growth, and then performance enhancement. Resilience is your ability to withstand, as a lot of you might have heard before, your ability to withstand challenging things that happen. So you are finally back into your workout routine and you're asked to work overtime, or you're finally getting your anxiety and stress levels to a better position, but then all of a sudden you're involved with something crazy at work or have a big fight with your significant other. So your ability to not allow your emotions to run or to dictate your thoughts is largely encompassed in your resilience. That is compared to post-traumatic growth, meaning that when bad things happen, not only do you survive it, but actually you find a way to incorporate it into your life, and now you're a better version of yourself, not because you are glad you went through that stressful thing, but because you learned something about life and yourself by going through that. And you appreciate the positives more because you went through that. And then finally is performance enhancement. So we can't simulate the activities that you go through whenever you are in real life tactical situations. But just the same way that you will go and practice close quarter combat, we also can simulate your response to stress. Because remember, stress is stress. When you have your heart rate elevated and you're sweaty and your palms are clammy and you are having to react in real time, that's something that absolutely we can simulate. So these are some of the things that I mentioned. The first is, this is the way that I think about your mental skills. Your mental skills are like the edge pieces of your jigsaw puzzle. How many times have y'all done a jigsaw puzzle, and while you're going through it, you get kind of annoyed working on the grassy area, so instead you go and look for more edge pieces? Or if you're like me, I don't even start with the inside until I get the entire thing framed, because you know that you'll be able to orient yourself. You'll never be lost for very long, or if you do get lost, you will always have another area to work on, because now everything has been framed by those edge pieces. Think about your mental skills like that. So no matter what you experience in life, you'll be able to deal with it if you have your mental skills honed. Next, we have the second arrow, which comes from a Buddhist parable. Essentially, the point is, like, fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me. It is possible to be hurt, literally or figuratively, by an arrow. That first arrow only, because that second arrow, you now know where your assailant either is or that they simply are there. They have made themselves known. So now it is important to not do damage to yourself, meaning attack or retreat. I'm speaking figuratively here, but it applies to other situations as well. Essentially, you need to practice and train yourself and reflect upon situations where you were either caught off guard, or you can think about your Cooper code and you were in a white stage instead of in like a yellow stage. You weren't ready for it. And then you can learn to advance beyond that. The third thing here is the concept of how you have to be okay with more risk than the average civilian. The issue here is that while most of us run away from the sound of gunfire or run away from a burning building, you are in the group of folks who run towards that. So you have to learn how to be okay with taking some risk, putting yourself in the line of fire, right? So the problem is that you don't turn that off. You've become too tolerant of risk. So you allow your nutrition to fall apart. You allow yourself to just chug energy drinks instead of getting proper sleep. You use nicotine as a stimulant instead of exercise, because you guys are so comfortable with doing risky things. So it's really important that you don't just make automatic decisions. On the right, we have first the concept of anti-fragile. Essentially, it's that you have to have a healthy relationship with risk. Think about what we just got done talking about. If you, for example, if you're able to walk a mile or jog a mile, if you don't ever try to go a little faster at that same distance or a little further than that distance, then you will almost never get that compensation. You'll meaning that growth from that activity. So think about how you do a workout, and then the next time you come to the workout, those same set of exercises doesn't make your muscle sore anymore. So our bodies are naturally capable of recovering and compensating from the risk that comes with activities. The problem is that you have to find that Goldilocks zone. If you wait too long or don't risk enough, then you won't have growth. If you risk too much, then you increase the chance that you will get hurt or make it almost come true, become self-fulfilling. Next, we have the concept of effort multiplication. Essentially, perseverance and stick-to-itiveness allows you to overcome your inadequacies or what you view or as what other people have told you as being inadequacies. Essentially, the way effort is used in our life is that if you take effort and you add it to talent, you acquire skill. If you take that skill and add talent, effort, then you gain accomplishment. So how many folks do you know, or can you think of an example of somebody who didn't have the most talent, but they worked their tails off, they persevered through failure and being told that they were no good, and they actually really succeeded? And also think about other people and who had all the talent in the world and just wasted it. So never forget that by having some perseverance and not and putting forth that effort, it'll allow you to overcome the things that you struggle with. And then finally, let's talk about being neutral. So this concept is laid out by Russell Wilson's mental performance coach. Essentially, things that are negative that are said are much more impactful than things that are positive. How many times has somebody said something positive to you, or like a raw kind of thing, and you just kind of roll your eyes and say, yeah, whatever? I bet there's even been times where you experience somebody that's so positive that you actually get kind of annoyed, right? So it even has the opposite effect. Well, rarely, much less often is it true that somebody says something negative and you actually have a positive response to it. So things that are negative are much more impactful than things that are positive. And essentially, you can benefit from silence. So just by not stating, or you might all know somebody or can remember a time to where you see somebody and you're like, well, don't tell him or her because, oh, she'll go on and on about how bad things are, whatnot, right? So that's how impactful negative things are. So if you can just keep it to yourself and just kind of keep working through it, that's why I really like the title of his book. It takes what it takes. You're just going to do it. So now we want you to be introspective and not be overly tolerant to risk. And maybe there's a better way to work smarter instead of harder. And we don't want you to just fill that silence with automatic thoughts and automatic behaviors. But in general, there is a positive effect by just keeping your mouth shut. That's the point. Just by not being negative, there will be benefit for you. So let's circle back to resilience and talk about cognitive distortions. This is when you allow your emotions, or you allow an emotional response to dictate or guide your thoughts. So a really common, easy example to think about is jumping to conclusions. That's a form of a cognitive distortion. So let's say that you're trying to get into shape, and let's make the math easy to think about. You've got 6 months for whatever you decide. You set this goal, or maybe you have a promotion coming up if you're in the military and you've been having trouble passing your PT exam, especially with the new test that's out there. So you say, you know what, I need to lose 20 pounds. So, well, after 2 months, you've only lost 5. So the poor response would be, I'm never going to lose this weight. And then, God forbid, you give up. But maybe instead of saying that, jumping to that conclusion, let's maybe think about your diet. Maybe your exercise was on point, but your diet was not what it should be to lose the weight. Or how about the opposite? Maybe you've done a great job of your nutrition. I mean, you still lost 5 pounds, so you're doing a good job with your diet, but you need to just burn some more calories. Maybe you've advanced in your career a little bit. You spend a little bit more time behind the desk than you would like to. So maybe you need to increase your exercise. Maybe you do a great job when you're off shift, but then when you're on shift, you have trouble not eating some of the more convenient foods that are less healthy for you. So maybe we can just do some meal prep, and then that'll keep your caloric intake under control. Or lastly, maybe it's your expectations. If you think about it, you are not too far off, right? So you're about a third of the time through. And if you just lost 2 more pounds, then you would be a third of the way. But so 5 of 20, that's a quarter, right? So let's just say that you have 8 months. Well, now all of a sudden you're right on track. So maybe your expectations were off, especially with all the craziness that we've all been through recently, right? Finally, let's talk about stimulating stress to enhance your performance at work. As we discussed previously, we can simulate a certain number of the activities that you have to do as a part of your job description. Not only can we replicate close quarter combat and other kinds of tactical situations, a lot of what you guys can learn as a part of OTOA, but also we can simulate stressful situations to improve your decision making. So how many of you have seen one of these CERT training pistols before? Specifically designed to simulate a real life handgun, and it allows you to improve your live fire technique rather than, say, replace your live fire technique. And also maybe some of you have seen these IQ targets. Well, what we can do is we can challenge you with stressful situations like strength and conditioning and other activities, and then use a training firearm like the CERT pistol, and then ask you to quickly and properly identify and accurately shoot all of the green targets and then all of the triangles. So not only are we testing your physiological ability to control your heart rate and control your hands while under stress, but then also your decision making as well. We realize that not everybody has access to a trainer. That's where this really can be beneficial, because let's say that I'm training you, I can stand behind you and say, okay, now go ahead and shoot all the yellow ones. And then we can time how quickly it takes you to do that and how accurately you can do that. But there are other ways to do this as well. For those of you who do not have access to a coach who can assist you in the implementation of a laser training pistol for decision making and mental performance, you could always go to your phone. This is a fantastic app called Peak, as you see at the top left, and I use it myself, and it is very effective at working on your decision making. It also has a lot of metrics that will be tracked from your performance that will give you an idea about how you're progressing, where you're struggling. So just these are screenshots from my phone and gives you a idea of 2 of the different programs or games that they have that you can utilize. The one on the left, it asks you to quickly assess whether the woman has a frown, and then it will randomly include images on the bottom whether or not the man is wearing glasses. So you can expect, as you're trying to hit yes or no as quickly as you can, this can really be challenging to keep up a fast processing speed. Furthermore, if we make you tired and do this, between sets, or have you do some sprints or some push-ups and then have you try to do this, it allows you to simulate that stress that we were talking about earlier and improving your decision makings while under duress, even though it's a different situation. And finally, on the right side, you see another identifying game where you have to pick out not only the little monster guy, but then also you have to acquire ammo, which are those tennis balls there, to be able to hit the guy. So it's a lot of mental processing, and you swipe back and forth trying to find him and the ammo necessary to tap him and hit him, break him up. To summarize, remember that there are multiple avenues for success. So you should never feel like you are running out of options. There's always something. I think an important part to remember is that you guys are normal folks doing extraordinary things. So it's okay if you are having a hard time dealing with the management of all this stuff, trying to do your workouts like a normal person, but also take care of your family, but also work swing shifts, but also be sleep deprived, but also lose weight. It's all these things. Give yourself some grace. It's okay to be out of your routine. It's okay to struggle with things or to find a new opportunity. Like maybe the difficulty, once again, that jumping to conclusions thing, maybe the difficulty that you have staying on your routine, instead of you beating yourself up about it, maybe this is the evidence that you needed to see or feel or experience to learn, oh, I need to change my routine. Let me try to do this a different way. Or let me work out, when I get up in the morning, instead of when I go to bed at night, whatever. So the whole point is that we want you to feel like you have a lot of different ways to learn how to thrive. And even though you go through all this really challenging experiences, you should still be able to live a healthy life and stay in the field until you're ready to quit, instead of being forced out because of the things that are otherwise avoidable. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is the exclusive offer that we have for all OTOA members. As the name suggests, our recon package will give you a strategic advantage at improving your performance and wellness. So once somebody acquires, whether it's through the OTOA free discount or through purchasing it as a member or a non-member, you will have access to all these different items. So the way this will work is that you'll sign up to become a member, you'll purchase a plan, and then we have a 30-day free trial period for both plans. Once that expires, the free trial that is, your membership will be live, and that's when you will receive your discount to purchase the reconnaissance package. We hope that you find everything that you need out of this package to get a start on improving whatever aspects or parameters that you would like. And we really look forward to having you a part of our FMR family. So these are the resources that I used during the making of this presentation, and we are eternally grateful for the work that you folks do. And if there's any way that I can help, again, please reach out. My email is recover@advancingathletics.com. And again, we sincerely hope that you'll join our squad. Thank you.